All right, so our story kicks off in a small French town, June 2003. And it starts with just an awful event.
The murder of 9-year-old Emily, her dad, Richard, he's a detective, her mom, Claire, and an anesthetist.
And the really tragic part, Emily was home alone. And this particular day, it was supposed to be a rare day off for Richard. Family time.
But then an urgent call comes in from his superior. He needs him at the station.
Right, and he makes this awful decision, leaves Emily home alone just for a bit longer. A choice that, you can only imagine how it haunts him.
So the police investigation, initially it moves fast. They pick up Daniel, a middle-aged guy, described as polite, well-mannered.
Doesn't sound like the typical profile, maybe?
Not at all. And this is where you see a potential weakness right away. There's basically no physical evidence, no fingerprints, no hair, no eyewitnesses, nothing.
So what did they have?
Intense psychological pressure. The interrogation must have been relentless. And eventually, it leads to Daniel giving a confession. A coerced confession, it seems.
Okay, so he confesses. But then, things get complicated. At the trial, Daniel suddenly retracts everything, says the police forced him.
Yeah, and his lawyer really goes after this point. Argues that Richard's colleagues, maybe wanting to close the case quickly because it was so high profile, cut corners, used heavy-handed tactics.
But he was still convicted.
He was. Despite the retraction, the court looked at the severity of the crime, obviously, but the core reason was that his initial confession had details only the killer could supposedly know.
Right, details of the crime scene.
Exactly. So he gets 30 years. And here's a detail that becomes important later. France didn't have the death penalty back then.
Okay.
And that lack of a death penalty, it kind of hangs over the whole story. It raises questions about what happens when people feel the legal punishment isn't enough, or, like we'll see, when the system gets it totally wrong.
So, Daniel's convicted, locked up. You think, okay, maybe Richard can start to grieve, maybe find some closure, but no.
And not even close.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really bizarre. A year into Daniel's sentence, he starts writing letters. To Richard.
To the victim's father. Wow, that takes some nerve. What was he saying?
Well, initially, Richard just saw it as, cruel manipulation, trying to mess with his head.
I would too.
Right? Daniel would say things like, "I'm so sorry for your grief," but then it says, "I'm innocent. My life's awful anyway, but the real killer is still out there." It was this, slow drip of doubt he was trying to plant.
Just chipping away at Richard's certainty.
Exactly. Not aiming for instant belief, but just wearing him down over time.
So Richard ignores these letters for a whole year, just bins them probably, until what changes?
A year later, he's on duty driving, listening to the radio, and there's a news report. Police in another area arrested a serial killer, a guy named Salinas.
Okay.
And this Salinas, he'd been targeting kids who were home alone across France for years.
Oh, wow. And that clicks with Richard?
Immediately, it just hits him. Daniel's letters. The fear of the real killer. That single news report plants this seed of doubt. His absolute certainty about Daniel starts to wobble.
So what does he do? He's a detective. He can look into it.
Right. He gets permission to review the Salinas case files. And what he finds is disturbing. Salinas' known victims died in ways that were, eerily similar to Emily.
Really?
Yeah. Plus, Salinas had suffered a severe head injury years ago, caused memory lapses, confusion about his own crimes, and crucially, in one of his confused statements, he described details that didn't match any known victim, but perfectly matched Emily's murder.
That's the crack Richard was looking for, isn't it?
That's the first real hint that maybe, just maybe, he'd helped convict the wrong man.
And once a detective gets a scent like that?
He can't let it go. His investigation into Salinas becomes, obsessive. He finds out Salinas had a cousin living near the forest where Emily was killed.
No way.
Yeah. The cousin confirms Salinas had issues. Abuse history, the head trauma, needed meds for it. And, get this, around the time Emily died, Salinas was staying with that cousin, working temporary construction nearby.
Okay, the pieces are starting to fall into place now.
You bet. Richard's detective instincts are firing on all cylinders. He digs up a neurology appointment slip for Salinas, dated the exact day Emily was murdered. Proof he was in the area.
Undeniable proof.
Then he finds the construction boss. Confirms Salinas' work route that day took him right through that forest around the time Emily died. For Richard, it's almost a slam dunk. It has to be Salinas.
So does he confront Salinas?
He gets him brought in, shows him Emily's photo. Salinas denies everything, never saw her, didn't stop in the forest, knows nothing.
But Richard thinks it's the memory loss.
Exactly. He's convinced Salinas just doesn't remember doing it. So that night, Richard does something huge. He writes back to Daniel. For the first time.
What does he say?
He lays it all out. Shares his findings about Salinas, admits he now believes Daniel is innocent and Salinas is the real killer. Imagine Richard's world turning upside down like that.
And Daniel's reaction.
Pure relief. Or at least it looks like pure relief. A big smile. This moment, though, it's kind of the launch pad for his next move. Because it turns out Daniel wasn't just sitting quietly in prison.
Oh.
He'd been getting letters, lots of them, from female admirers who saw the weak evidence and just didn't believe he did it.
So he had fans.
Apparently. And after getting Richard's letter, feeling this surge of hope, he immediately writes back to one of his most devoted correspondents.
Okay, so Richard's convinced he's found the real killer. What's his next official step?
He goes to his superior, formally requests they reopen Emily's case based on the Salinas evidence.
And the boss says,
No. Flat rejection. The department can't face the embarrassment, the scandal of admitting they got it so wrong. As far as they're concerned, Daniel did it. Case closed. Move on.
But Richard can't move on.
No way. Official channel's a block, so he goes underground, continues investigating Salinas in secret. He even tracks down Salinas' neurologist.
And the doctor talked.
Confirms the chronic headaches, the memory problems, and maybe feeling sorry for Richard, gives him Salinas' full medical records. Richard's building his case, piece by piece.
But he needs more than medical records. He needs a witness, something concrete for a retrial.
Exactly. So he takes a huge risk. Goes to a local TV journalist, asks them to broadcast an appeal for witnesses related to Emily's murder and Salinas' potential presence.
That's going public big time. How does that land?
Oh, it explodes. Claire, his wife, sees it. She had no idea he was still digging, let alone trying to clear Daniel's name. Then she finds Daniel's letters in Richard's study.
Oh, man.
Yeah. She's furious, confused. How could he? They fight. She packs her bags and leaves. His boss is livid too, another confrontation. But Richard stands his ground. He's doing this as a father, yes, but also as a cop seeking the truth.
Does the TV appeal work? Does anyone come forward?
Amazingly, yes. Just after the broadcast, a woman contacts the station. Curly hair. She keeps a detailed journal, like incredibly detailed.
Okay.
And she remembers jogging near the forest on the day Emily died. She distinctly saw a man matching Salinas' description coming out of the woods, right around the time of the murder. She hadn't thought much of it then, but now...
Her journal backs it up.
Perfectly. Her testimony is credible, seems totally independent. This is the breakthrough. The case is officially reopened.
So a retrial happens.
It does. Salinas is on the stand,
Yeah.
still denying everything, probably genuinely confused because of his memory. But you've got the witness testimony, the journal entry.
It's compelling,
The court thinks so. They find Salinas guilty of Emily's murder.
which means Daniel.
Daniel is declared innocent, released from prison after serving years for a crime he apparently didn't commit, and he gets awarded $200,000 compensation for wrongful imprisonment.
Wow. So justice prevails. Wrongful conviction overturned. The system worked eventually.
It seems like it's actually over now. The real killer, Salinas, is caught. The innocent man, Daniel, is free. Justice delayed, but served.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But no, this is where the first massive twist drops. And it's a gut punch.
Okay, what happens?
Daniel's about to walk out of prison, a free man. But just before he leaves, he goes to his locker, retrieves something he hid there.
What is it?
A letter. The very first letter he ever wrote to Richard. The one Richard presumably never received.
And the content.
A full confession. Gruesome details. Admitting he assaulted and murdered Emily.
Wait, what? So he was guilty all along?
He was. And worse, Emily wasn't his first victim.
Oh my God.
She was his third. The first two, he'd hidden the bodies so well they were never found, never linked to him.
This is incredibly dark. Why write the confession then?
Initially, to taunt Richard. Pure psychological torture. But then he must have realized it was too risky, so he hid it. And started the whole I'm innocent campaign instead.
Playing the long game. Using Richard's grief against him.
Exactly. And when Salinas got arrested, Daniel saw his golden opportunity.
Yeah.
He wrote to one of those female admirers,
The curly-haired woman, the witness.
the very same one. He instructed her to lie, told her exactly what to say to frame Salinas, made sure the letter came via his lawyer so it couldn't be traced back to him easily. Then he destroyed his actual confession.
He orchestrated the whole thing. The witness testimony that freed him.
The entire exoneration, all engineered by him from his prison cell.
That's a breathtakingly manipulative. What does he do after he's released? besides retrieving the confession?
He ties up loose ends,
Yeah.
meets secretly with the curly-haired woman. They burn all the letters they exchanged, erasing the proof of their conspiracy.
Covering his tracks completely.
And then, his final act of pure evil, he goes to visit Richard.
No. Why?
To gloat, basically. To pretend gratitude, but really to savor his victory. He sees tricking Richard, using him as a pawn to get free, as his greatest crime yet.
That's just sadistic. How does Richard react?
Richard plays along, acts genuinely happy to see Daniel free, even invites him in for a drink to, toast Emily's spirit.
Closure. With the man who...
Daniel raises his glass, a mock tribute, takes a drink, and collapses. His body goes numb.
Richard poisoned him.
He did. But how did Richard know? That's the second twist.
Okay, I need to know this. How did he figure it out? He seemed convinced Salinas did it.
He let everyone believe that. But Richard had never fully bought that Salinas was the killer. Not deep down.
So the whole investigation into Salinas
Was partly real, but also partly a performance. Remember those medical records he got from the neurologist?
Yeah, the ones confirming the memory loss.
They confirmed something else, too. Something crucial. Salinas had a congenital disorder, a physical condition.
Okay.
It made it physically impossible for him to assault his victims in the way Emily was assaulted before being killed.
Impossible. Why didn't Salinas mention that?
Pride. Wounded pride as a man, as the film puts it. He was too embarrassed to reveal it.
So Richard read those records and knew. Salinas couldn't have done it the way the coroner described. Which meant...
Daniel was lying about everything. The confession details he originally gave, the ones only the killer supposedly knew, they didn't quite match the physical impossibility posed by Salinas' condition, but Richard only realized this after seeing the full medical file.
So Richard knew Daniel was guilty, probably long before Daniel was even released.
Absolutely. So he devised this incredibly elaborate plan. He played the grieving father, desperate for the wrong truth. He worked tirelessly to free Daniel.
Leading him into the trap all along.
Precisely, setting the stage for his own form of justice.
Daniel thought he was the master manipulator, the hunter.
And discovered, too late, that he was the prey. Richard drove him out to that same forest, where Emily died. Buried him alive.
Right there, in that spot.
Wow. Just, wow. So what happens then? Daniel just disappears.
Days later, yeah. News reports come out, Daniel's missing, the official speculation. He took his $200,000 and just vanished. Started a new life somewhere.
Some people must have known the truth.
Oh, they knew. Claire, Richard's wife, and his police superior, they put two and two together instantly.
And they understood why he did it.
Seems like it. Claire actually returns home to Richard, finds some kind of peace, maybe, knowing Emily's actual killer finally paid the price.
And the police chief, what does he do? Richard technically committed murder. He looks the other way, chooses not to investigate Daniel's disappearance too closely. Perhaps a tacit acknowledgement that the system failed.
Especially in a country without the death penalty.
Yeah.
Maybe he felt Richard delivered a justice the courts couldn't.
It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? This whole deep dive into counter-investigation. When the system fails, what are people capable of? How far does that line go?
Yeah, how far would you go? For truth. For peace. It's a heavy question.
It really is an incredible story about the twists truth can take and the extreme lengths one father went to, ultimately defining justice on his own terms.
A truly unforgettable deep dive.
Thanks for joining us for this one.